Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm Rebecca Jarvis coming to you live from my office. I'm the ABC News Chief Business Technology and Economics Correspondent, and I just filmed an episode of Real Biz with the phenomenal woman to my right. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, I'm Katherine McNamara. I play Clary Frey on Freeform's Shadowhunters.
And we were just talking about her life and her career, and I'm sure a lot of you out there who are following along right now know Katherine very well. But we were just talking about her career because it started when she was 13 years old on Broadway.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, the first moment that you really felt famous, what was that moment?
I don't think it's happened yet.
No.
To be honest. No, truly. I mean, I felt the force of this Shadowhunters fandom, truly. And that, over the course of the last year and a half, that's been kind of amazing. The first moment that I really physically felt it was the first time we went to New York Comic-Con, which we had shot the entire show and we'd been in this little bubble in Toronto doing our thing, and we hadn't released anything from the show. But New York Comic-Con last year was the first time the first 7 minutes of the pilot were released. We did our panel, we did a signing, we did photos, we did all the press, we did everything as a team and as a group. And I will never forget standing backstage before going on for the panel, watching in kind of a mirror, because we were watching from behind the screen, and hearing the audience watch that first 7 minutes of the show. And then going on stage and hearing their questions and hearing their cheers, and then doing the signing and having girls dressed like me walk in front of me and talk to me about the story and why they love this character and why they love this show. And that, it hit me in that moment how much of an impact this story has on people.
Which had to be a very cool feeling
It's
for you.
very cool because I have the opportunity to do what I love for a living. You know, I get to go play dress up every day. I get to have so much fun and do my favorite thing in the world every single day. And to have that mean something to people and to have that be something that's a real positive influence on their lives, it makes it priceless.
We want you guys to know we're taking your questions. We also got a number of questions on Twitter when we posted about this earlier, so we're going to be asking those questions in just a minute too. Taylor Dunn, my producer, is working behind the scenes going through those questions. She's going to bring them up here. Because you studied economics and finance and business, I wonder, what's the biggest business lesson you've learned from being in Hollywood?
The biggest business lesson I've learned is not only to read my contract, but to understand what the connotation is of everything in it. Because it can read one way, but it can also mean about 3 other things.
And you got to know what's happening, otherwise you're not protecting your brand and your money.
Yeah, and I've learned that one the hard way. So that's very interesting.
Okay, this one is from Days Lighters. What kind of music do you think Clary likes to listen to?
Clary likes to listen to, see, this is awesome because I always create a playlist for my characters and I listen to it in the van on the way to work every day. I have a lot of different songs on there. What do I have? I have a lot of Halsey on there right now, a lot of Banks, her new album's amazing. But the one song that I think is very indicative of Clary for season 2, and it's not really an artist that I think she might listen to often, but Rise by Katy Perry is it was sort of like the song of the powerful song of the summer, but it's very indicative of where Clary's at and where she's going this season.
We have a question from Hulk Widows who asked, I just started college, some advice on that. You started college when you were 15?
Yes.
So
Yeah. So let's see. I guess my biggest advice would be stay focused and take it slow and don't overwork yourself. I was a bit crazy in college and I took probably 20 credit hours a quarter.
That's how you would describe crazy in college.
And I didn't sleep.
Most people say something different when they're talking about crazy in college. You're talking about taking too many credits.
Yeah, I'm a huge nerd if you can't already tell. No, but just make
That's
sure.
how you get here. That's how you achieve this level of success.
Oh, thank you.
By working really hard.
Thank you.
I think this is Shum Send. He said, if Shadowhunters could cross over another show, what would it be?
Ooh,
That's a good question.
That's a very good question. I think it would be fun to cross over into the world of maybe like Teen Wolf or Once Upon a Time or another supernatural show just to mess with the mythology that much more.
Yes?
Oh, let's take some Facebook ones.
Oh,
There are
perfect.
so many questions
Yay,
on Facebook right
awesome.
now.
Guys,
We'll start with the first. So Lara asks, what do you love most about Clary?
I love Clary's passion and the fact that no matter how much she's beaten down, no matter how many hardships she goes through, how many sacrifices she has to make, somehow she always has this undying hope that things are going to be okay. There's always this little ember of light within her that she refuses to accept that all is lost.
What was the
else?
hardest scene you've ever had to do from Sabina?
Ooh, one of the hardest scenes I had to do last season, there were a couple last season, last season, episode 1, I was in the rain, running through, and then I had to run inside this building and break down, and it was physically, mentally, and emotionally taxing.
How do you prepare for a scene like that?
There's not much you can do because so much of it depends on where you're at emotionally that day. It's just about commitment, and you just commit to it and put yourself there, and it's uncomfortable and it's hard and you'll be exhausted, but you'll sleep the best you've ever slept when you get home that night, and it's a real sense of accomplishment when you've made it through. There was also an episode this season where something major happens in the story that's going to shock everyone, and it throws Clary completely and takes her down a path that she never thought she would end up. So that was a very interesting episode to shoot.
Emma asks, if you were a real shadow hunter, who would you want on your demon hunting team?
Ooh.
I would want the team we have in Shadowhunters. I would definitely want Jace and Alec, the Parabatai. They're our best fighters. I would want Isabel. She has her own talents as well and uses different assets to fight. I would want Clary on my team for sure of Shadowhunters.
Jessica asks, can we expect some sassy Clary and Alec scenes in season 2?
Without a doubt. Clary and Alec actually have a lot together this season, which is great because I love their relationship because they constantly butt heads, even though they have the same intentions and the same goals, and technically they want the same thing, but because they want the same thing, they always fight. It's this very interesting relationship, and they bring out a sass in each other. Plus, I love working with Matthew Daddario, who plays Alec. He's one of my favorite human beings on the planet. But there's something that happens that tears Alec and Clary apart, but then through that, it brings them back together.
Mason asks, what's your biggest challenge in life and how did you overcome it?
I think my biggest challenge in life up to this point is and it's just been an ongoing thing that I've dealt with, is finding ways to continue growing and keep learning and to continue moving forward in my career in the best way that I can. And that's something that it's not necessarily a challenge that's a negative challenge, it's almost a positive challenge, and it's something that I never really want to end.
Are you saying you don't want to get caught in sort of one format, one stereotype of what you can do on camera?
Exactly, and I'm okay with being challenged. I'm okay with having to push myself. My favorite scripts that I read are ones that I read that scare me a little bit, that I go, I actually don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can go there. I don't know if I can do that in the way that it needs to be done, or I don't know if I can do that stunt. I don't know if I can accomplish this emotional arc. But then I know that on the day that I'm gonna work hard and make it happen.
Sarah asks, if you could have one cast member as your ally in the Hunger Games, who would you choose?
Katniss?
I have to answer this one carefully. Of my cast members or of those cast members?
I think, why don't you do both?
Of those cast members, definitely Katniss,
Okay,
obviously.
just making
because
sure.
She wins. And she's badass, and I love Jennifer Lawrence. I think of my cast members, probably Isaiah. Isaiah Mustafa plays Luke. He's this badass werewolf. He's just a giant human, and he's an amazing boxer. He can fight like no other, and he's incredibly fast for his size. It's amazing.
Are you fast?
I am.
Are you a runner?
I've had to become one for the show. I've done a lot of sprinting and high-intensity interval training and things like that.
How much training on the physical side goes into the show?
So much.
Yeah.
So much. We're in the gym almost every day. We're doing fitness training with a personal trainer who kicks our butts, but we love him. We have an amazing stunt coordinator who has a team of incredible high-class martial artists and fighters, and they teach us every kind of fighting that we need to know, and it's amazing because we're all in the best shape of our lives, but we're always tired and always sore in one place or another.
Let's see.
How about if you could work with any actor or actress on this planet, who would that be?
Oh my god.
You've already
Can I
worked
give
with
you
a lot
list?
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, can I give you a list? There's
Sure.
so many that I'd love to
Should
work
we
with.
just roll credits right
Yeah,
now?
just roll credits, just, everyone. No, there are a few that I really would love to work with. I'd love to work with Jessica Chastain. I think she's amazing, and she's so versatile, and she's one person that I really aspire to follow in the footsteps of. I'd love to work with, he's a director, but David O. Russell is someone I'd love to work with. I've met him a few times and had a chance to speak with him and read a lot about the environment he creates on a set, and I find it so fascinating, and it's an environment that I know would push me, but I would love to work in.
How does that stuff come to be? For example, you want to work with David O. Russell.
Mm-hmm.
What initiates that kind of thing?
A lot of it is, at least at the point that I'm at in my career, is waiting for a role to come up and waiting for the right project and something that I can fit into. But also it comes down to me talking to my team and being like, so, if anything happens to come up, please let's make it work.
I always think about that when I'm watching award shows,
Yeah.
because I think about the behind the scenes part
Yeah.
where you're probably, it's like a networking event.
It
You're
is.
probably trying really hard to get in front of a handful of people.
Yeah, well, and it's very interesting because I haven't been to many awards shows of that nature yet, but you end up meeting these people other places. I met David O. Russell at a screening for Silver Linings Playbook that he ended up being at the Q&A after, and just went up to shake his hand, and he started calling me Isla Fisher, and we ended up chatting for a good long while.
He had a great conversation with Isla Fisher
Yeah,
that night.
I don't think he actually knows my name. He just called me Isla Fisher because he thought I looked like Isla Fisher. But that's great. I'll take it. He can call me Isla Fisher if he wants to. That's great.
Teresa asks, what advice would you give to teenagers?
Stay true to who you are and find what makes you special and emphasize that, utilize that, and don't be afraid to explore what your passions are, because you never know. There's so much in the world, so many different perspectives, and that's what I love about education, is it's so many people take education for granted. So many people view education as a chore as opposed to a way to broaden your scope and to open up your perspective to the world.
You, we'll get to more questions. I just want to ask you a question about your business background, because
Yeah.
you studied business.
Yeah.
If you weren't doing this and you went into business, what job would you have?
A class that I took in my undergraduate degree that I really loved was developmental economics, and it fascinated me. The fact that these countries are trying to develop, and there's this delicate balance between the larger countries and the more powerful countries in the world helping them without inhibiting them, and the nuance and all of the minutia that goes into each specific situation. That class barely scratched the surface of that field, but it absolutely fascinated me, and I would probably be in that sort of a world.
Nika asks, do you currently have a favorite book?
Watership Down is my favorite book. I love the Mortal Instruments books. I've read them all. But
People wanted to know about that. They wanted to make sure you actually did read them before
yes,
Clary.
I did. I didn't read them before Clary. I read them during. I'd finished the first book by the time we started shooting. But then Alberto, who plays Simon, he plays my best friend on the show, he read all the books. By episode 4, he was done with all the books. And I finished them after we finished the first season. And it was so special to me reading those books because by the time I got to the end of the story, I knew all of these people so well that were playing these characters, and I could hear their voices, I could see them move, I could see their faces, and I was in it with them, and it made the last probably 50 pages of the last book, I was bawling my eyes out because of the way the story ends. And Cassie Clare, who wrote these books, crafts such a beautiful story and writes in such a romantic way that it just draws you into this world.
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
I am a Harry Potter fan.
Maria asks, what's your Patronus?
I don't know what my Patronus would be. Probably, can it be something like a zebra? Can it be something crazy like that? Then my Patronus is probably a zebra.
What would my Patronus be?
I need to think about that.
All right, we'll get back to you on
We
that.
have to get on Pottermore and do like the actual quiz.
Misha asks, how did you get into acting and what made you decide to be an actress?
I got into acting as something fun over the summer. I was a dancer. I decided to help a friend out as, you know, just to try something new for the summer and do something fun. I was a dancer in a community theater show. But I will never, ever forget the moment I stepped on stage on opening night. I just felt the energy of the audience, and something hit me like a brick wall. And I knew, without a doubt, in that moment that this is what I was put on this earth to do. And this is what I have to do for the rest of my life.
How does being on the stage performing versus on camera affect you?
It's so different. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and we came up with the greatest analogy, that theater is finding the perfection in the imperfection, and film and television is finding the imperfection in the perfection. Because on film and television, you can really take your time to make everything perfect and to make everything right, and to really, it's such a more of an intimate
Details
process.
are there.
Yeah, it's the detailed, intimate process that you can dig in and you get right up close and personal with these people. But then in theater, you rehearse it as much as you can and you do what you can, but then whatever happens, happens. And it's all about the energy of the audience and feeding off of what's happening in that moment and working with all of the imperfections.
Are you good at memorizing lines?
I have become very good at it.
You have to get them down pretty quickly on set, right?
Well, especially because we're so active on this show. We're always moving, we're running, we're doing things, we're fighting, that if you don't know your words, it's not gonna work. And especially with all the mythology that we have on the show and the complicated plot, we have to know our words. But it's a muscle, you know, it's something that's always, I've always been good at memorizing things, but at this point I can read a scene 2 or 3 times and know it by heart.
Wow.
Sarah asks, I'm stuck between majoring in something that I love and something that'll make money. What's your advice?
Good question, Sarah.
Good question. I would say see if there's an opportunity to explore both and see if you can find a way either to combine them or to do both, or to do the one that you love with a combination of the other, or just make sure you do something you love. Because if you don't do something you love, you'll never be happy, no matter what.
But you found a way to do something incredibly practical, but at the same time pursue what you love.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really good advice, because there are lots and lots of ways. It usually isn't just black and white. I bet, Sarah, was that Sarah? Sarah, I bet that there's a way, if you think about it and you're creative about it, that you can do what you love and also study something that's practical. And a lot of places will let you do a double major, or you can do extracurricular things like you did as credits and things like that.
Exactly. Don't take no for an answer. That's the whole point of life, I think.
We'll take one more and then we'll wrap it up.
Great.
Perfect.
Ellis asked, what's something you can't leave home without?
Ooh, something, well, this is something that the cast knows very well about me. I never leave home without these little, the little Listerine strip, like, pocket bags. And it's so funny. I always have them with me. I have them in my pocket on set. I have them all the time. And it's, they call me grandma because of it. Because I always have, like, cough drops and hand sanitizer and Listerine strips and a toothbrush in my bag at all times. It's, I don't know what it is. I guess I spent a lot of time with my grandparents as a kid that I just sort of adopted that.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. This is a pleasure.
And thank you so much to all of you. Those were great questions for Katherine. I want to thank you for being so open, so welcoming to everybody who is here, and also just sharing so much about yourself with us. We have an amazing episode of Real Biz with Rebecca Jarvis coming up, where we get even deeper in the conversation. You guys can check that out. We'll post it here on Facebook.com, on my Facebook, Rebecca Jarvis, but we'll also be posting it on abcnews.com. It's on Apple TV, and now recently we just got put on Hulu as well.
Congratulations.
So we're covering the map as much as possible. Thanks to all of you. I hope you have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.